become conscious of consciousness is freedom. To become aware of pure awareness, whether awake or dreaming or in deep sleep, is the crest jewel of liberation. Consciousness unbounded, empty, self-luminous, vibrating in stillness. When this pure consciousness outshines perception of the object, outshines the dream, outshines even the darkness of deep sleep, the veil between the worlds dissolves. It is love, all pervading, all forgiving, all unifying. Your love or God's love? No need to ask. Consciousness permeates even that veil, and you love the other as yourself. Then otherness sparkles even more wondrously, even more intimately, whether of man or woman, insect, this guy kills me, insect or angel, pebble or toadstool or mother divine. Otherness irradiates creation with beams of grace that emanate from your own heart. It is you who have been saying all along, let there be light. Welcome to the Institute for Advanced Astonishment. And our guest today is right there, Lala I didn't even know her last name, Lala Tribble.
Tribble, yeah.
And your background, it looks like you're in this mushroom house and you're in a mushroom house of your own, I think.
Yeah, the mushroom frequency, like we're all in our mushroom houses across the globe.
Yes. And I'm just going to lay out a little bit about the podcast because I don't think you've seen it. It's about astonishment, but not just astonishment, advanced astonishment, that the experience you know very well. And so we focus, there's a little, on the title, there's a little 3, like almost like E equals MC squared, only it's the M in astonishment has a 3. And so we focus on 3 M's, matter or consciousness or spirit, or materialism versus spirit, or another M is medicine, which I know you know a little bit about, a thing or 2 or 3 about, or these amazing ego dissolvers, these things that show us our true nature, or the 3rd M, which would be mind training, which I think is a big thing with you. And that's why I think I have you on. How do we get, once we see this advanced true nature, this astonishment of who we really are, how do we, because we forget or we never ever see it, how do we make that our baseline? What are the techniques or things that work and what doesn't work, and how do we make it our everyday experience? And what tools, do you have to, I know you have plenty. Even 1 would be amazing, 2, 3 that have brought you to make this your state. And I just want to tell everyone, when I met Lala, I was in the Third Eye Bakery, of course, the Tersa Ojo, the Third Eye. And I sit down, and next to me to my right is this girl that's like lighting the room up. And she had this big hat and a ukulele, and she was doing her work. And we just hit it off right away. We started talking. And then if you remember, another lady who I was supposed to meet there about writing books came in, Elaine, and you two made a song together. And it was just amazing that morning. It was amazing.
She's in Costa Rica now. I've been thinking about her. So maybe you send me her information after.
Yeah. And she's on next week, a week from today. She'll be right here sitting in your seat. So isn't that astonishing? I mean, and if you remember, not to bore anyone, we're almost done. You, before you sat next to me, sat next to her in another restaurant, and you thought you were taking up a seat or whatever, and then you said, let me get away, and you came and you met me, and then boom, here she comes because she has a date with me, and now we're all together, and then we make music.
Sort of you're touching on sort of this state of being, which is like it's like we recognize people before we actually interact with them, and being really aware of like who's standing out to you in a space. Like I remember her specifically because we had this sort of like weird dance about a chair, but I remember I'm like, oh, this woman is standing out to me amongst like a room. It was a cafe full of like 30 people. It's like this woman is standing out somehow, and then sure enough, in a different cafe, she appears, she's friends with you. Oh my God, she stood out. And I think that's the state of being.
With you and makes music with you. You guys hit these notes that was so beautiful. I recorded it. I have to
You have that recorded?
I have it. Yeah, and it's so beautiful, the notes. And at the end, we all just looked at each other like when you hit that last note and she hit it and you hit it, it was just so perfect. You could never write that. You could never.
Yeah, well, and I think that when we talk about how to like find that state, I think music, like a nice M right away. When we talk about medicine, is like music. I think, through her and I is a good example. It's like we were singing together, harmonizing together, not worrying about the words so much. I think there was a lot of light language, sort of just gibberish and sound. But I think after that song, you could feel that the room was at a very high vibration.
Yeah.
And people were coming and sitting over with us. Like we eventually amassed a group of like, I think 8 people were all just sitting there together.
Yeah, we went for hours. So it was like love coming home, calling, like you say, I love that. It didn't matter what words. It could be silence or it could be gibberish. It could be talking in tongues. It could be whatever. It could be nonsense, but the tone was this beautiful universal love. And people just came in like moths to a flame.
Yeah. And that I would say is like when it comes to, and I'm, personally right now, I am going through a very difficult time. I'm waking up, having a hard time tapping into that frequency. And the reasons are many. I don't know that they're important, but I can definitely, the things that are happening in the world right now, they're causing stress to all of us. Like we have to remember that we're one organism. So a war, no matter how far away it is affecting us. Destruction anywhere is self-destruction. So, during these times of conflict on the earth, like being really compassionate with the self and recognizing that it is harder to find that frequency, maybe not to put that story on anyone. Perhaps for others, it's very easy. For myself personally, I'm waking up in the morning in fear sometimes and needing to get myself back to love and centeredness. And so I'm really excited that that's what we're going to talk about because it's something that I'm exploring right now.
Can we start? I know from our talk, I mean, this is a long time coming. We wanted this for a while, and then the world just blew up, and even Guatemala, Israel, it's just been crazy. And then you've sent me these beautiful voicemails about no borders and what do we, and stuff you want to talk about, and I'd love to go into that. But maybe we could just start with, and I think everyone struggles with this, and some people aren't aware of it. The morning routine, like just waking up, your eyes. Proust has this beautiful line in Remembrance of Things Past, where it's everyone knows this, when your eyes first open in the morning, and he writes for like pages about this perfect moment that you're going to tell us about. Your eyes aren't even focused. Maybe the light is coming in, maybe through the shade, and you're not there yet. Like you're just awake. And then he says, you see this light, and then the way he does it is a hook comes down into your being and grabs Lala and pulls the self up into awareness, and you wake up and that's it. That's it. And you're there and you say, oh, and then right there, and I leave it to you. You can think about, you can grab your phone or you can do all sorts of things, but what do you do? What do you struggle with? What's your best morning?
So yeah, I mean, I know that lately my first instinct is actually to reach for the phone. So having to override that
Big.
habit. And again, I believe it comes from a good place. I think we, it's like we want to make sure everyone's okay. We want to see what's going on. We want to
Yes.
check in. And I find that what is really helping me as an empath and as a very open, connective being is establishing myself first and my existence within my body first. And then I can reach out to the rest of the world. But it's like waking up in the morning, and I was telling you, I'm in this beautiful cabin right now. I happen to have a waterfall in the backyard. Not everyone has that, but everyone has a shower, or not even
Yes.
everyone has a shower. I don't even want to say that because that's not necessarily
Wait,
fair.
can
But
I say what I have? I have from you the yoga, the mystical yoga, you know it, right? On my water bottle, so that when I spray it and I get a little shot of Lala and love, and I
oh my
can
God. So
never not think of you.
you're perfectly illustrating what I'm trying to say, which is like engage with an element, engage with the physical world in a really good way. Like for me, getting wet in the morning, like whether it's going in the waterfall or having a shower, I'm engaging with water, and that's really resetting me in the morning, because I also dream a lot and I'm traveling around in the nighttime doing a lot of stuff. It seems people are telling me I'm in their dreams while I'm also having other dreams. So in the morning, it's like, what can you do that, like, whether it is jumping in the shower, jumping in the river, waterfall, going outside, touching the dirt,
I
lighting
love
a
your naming
candle,
all these primal, like these element, like dirt and
the
air
five
and water.
elements, like
Yeah, because
breathe,
they're not
ether.
conceptual. They bring us back to that before concepts, you know.
Yes, yes, find that, like, anchor yourself. And it's actually, I really can see it being broken up into a series. It's like, first we anchor ourselves in the physical reality, because dream world is a whole different dimension. We're coming here, we're like engaged with one of the elements of this existence, of this 3D reality. And then from there, enter the day with words. For me, again, for
Yes.
everyone, it's different. A lot of people prefer silence. I do also prefer silence if I'm with other
Both.
people. But if I'm with myself, I like to program my day. So I will really say, before I even start meditating, it's like, I am living from my heart. I am grounded in my body. I
Right.
am safe. I trust. I'm excited for this day. I'm grateful for this day. And with those words, you're really building brick by brick your reality, almost like Minecraft. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like you're
really?
really building your
Yeah.
environment.
Another M. Minecraft. We're crafting
Minecraft.
the mind. It's great. It's great.
Minecraft. And from there, meditation, breathing, these things that then allow those programs to be embodied, to enter my system. So it's like I've programmed, I've touched the earth, I've brought myself into my body. I've programmed my environment by saying my expectations for my environment. And they're not demanding, or they're not like rigid. They're simply states of being. Like, I feel safe. I feel
Yes.
love. I'm coming from my heart. I'm not saying today is the day everything's going to work
Right.
out. Like, no, I'm not putting that much
Right.
pressure on my exact existence. I'm just saying, no matter what happens, this is where I'm coming from. And then I'm going into a place of stillness, of silence. For medicines, for someone like me, I'm a lot of air. I'm sitting with hape. I'm bringing myself into my body with tobacco spirit. I'm talking to that spirit. I'm saying, hey, help me come into my body, into my heart. Other people, it's yoga. Other people, it's a run. Whatever is
Right.
bringing you into your body. And allowing what you said to then be absorbed into every cell, giving yourself space to have that be absorbed into every cell. And then do whatever you want. I paint. Usually I
Right.
kick off, I start painting, I create something, right? Because then it's like, what programs are we adding to our reality? God is a creator. So if I want to meet my day from a divine space and connection to
Yes.
God, create something right in the morning. Create your breakfast. Create it like art. Create a picture, paint something, create a delicious cup of cacao, but come at the day from creation.
Yes.
So that's
what
what I
a
would say is the things I'm doing right now that I'm feeling are working for me, knowing that right now feels very tumultuous, and it's never going to be perfect. And there are days where it's really hard, and there's days where it's really easy, and there's days where it's in between. but those anchor points are really allowing me to at least stay a little bit sane.
I love anchor. I love that word. And, it's in the Bible, and Kierkegaard wrote about it. Seek the kingdom first. And that's all I hear while you're talking. Seek the kingdom first. Like, align yourself first. Seek the atonement or the at-one-ment first. The at-one-ment. And then I love that you don't just jump in the world, you start creating, and that divine spark. I didn't even know you painted.
I love to paint. Oh my
That's
goodness.
amazing. I know you write poetry and you make music, but you also paint. So the more creativity, the more creation, like you said, God is creation, not stagnant. It's creation.
Yeah, and it brings 2 points to mind right now. Is number one, I have the privilege right now where I no longer exist in like this 9 to 5 container. But even when I existed in the 9 to 5 container, I'm realizing I was waking up at 5 in the morning so that I could have this time. I never was someone that woke up at like 9:30 to be somewhere for 10. Like never, never, never. So I think giving yourself time so that you can build the kingdom around you. And then another point is that's coming to me is that God is creation and God is also destruction. And I think I'm realizing as we have this conversation that a missing piece for me in my daily practice is actually the destruction at night. Like we're talking about, it's like aligning and creating the day. And then also knowing at the end of the day, we're going to kind of close the day and end the day and say, okay, I built this day, and now I'm going to leave this day behind me, and everything that happened in this day is now in the past. And I'm going to clear the slate. I'm going to destroy everything and step into another day tomorrow. And I didn't realize that until we just had this conversation. I'm like, whoa, that's a missing piece in my practice, is actually my nighttime practice, which then sets me up for the daytime practice. I'm nailing the daytime practice, but the reason it's feeling kind of hard is because I'm not closing the day before. And so I'm coming in with yesterday's programs into today's morning and trying to reprogram over old programming. So also remembering that God is creation and destruction. So we create the day in the morning and we destroy the day at night.
Like all I hear is like a mandala, these beautiful mandalas that they make, and they sit there with the sand and they construct these most beautiful things, and then they destroy them at the end, because that's how it is. Just like a dream, you have to let it go. Don't be attached. That's beautiful. So what? I don't know anything about how you found out that this is the way. I don't know can you say, were you ever I was a big skeptic atheist. Were you? I don't know if you ever were. You might have always been this hippie Lala that knows, but or did you ever have doubt? When did you have this moment or did you always have it?
No, I was working in advertising, and I was an atheist. I didn't believe in anything. I found one of my best friends was really into like sound healing and entering this world, and I would literally be on the phone with her as she's talking about sound healing, and I'd be like, so you went into a tent and they started to ding a bunch of things and you cried about it. Like I was like, shut up, and so it was in my reality in the sense that it was presenting itself to me constantly through my friends, through people around me, but I myself was resisting and rejecting it. And it actually took a complete destruction of my life. I was with a partner for 10 years. I was working in my career for 10 years, and I was miserable. I was very self-destructive. I was struggling with addiction. My partner and I were fighting. I didn't feel connected to him. And it was at this point where it was kind of like, what do you choose? This crossroads of like, do you want to, he wanted to start going to therapy. He wanted to fix things. And for myself, it just was such an obvious, like, no, like, there's nothing to fix here. You deserve better than this. Like, I'm not feeling good. And I don't think that if I'm feeling, I remember saying to him, I'm depressed and you can't fix that. And only I can fix that. Like, I had some sort of knowing even then that that's great. Therapy wouldn't fix it. Therapy might slap a Band-Aid on it and help us to function together. But there was something fundamentally missing for me personally, and no other person was going to be able to fix that. So at that point was probably one of my lowest experiences, because I'd been building these things for 10 years. I was 28. I was succeeding by everyone else's like everyone else was telling me what a great life I had, and I was miserable. So I was very confused. And
But you had an inner voice that was telling you something deeper intuitively inside that said there's something better and you'll find it.
Yeah, and I didn't know anything. Like, it's like I keep coming back to this right now because I feel like this is very cyclical, and I think it happens many times in people's lives. Is like a seed is opening, and like the seed always opens in the darkness. The seed always opens in darkness.
I love that.
Right?
Mushrooms grow. These mushrooms grow in darkness, right? In a closet, or
they automatically start seeking the light, but it's that trust that, okay, things are dark. There's a lot of earth on top of me. There's a lot I'm weighed down, and that is the experience of the seed. And now that life inside the awakened heart is going to start to seek the light, you know? And I think that's what happened. I remember I was at my office job. I was chain smoking Belmonts. So I was outside smoking and crying about my breakup, about my life and all these things. And I had a moment of, I can only describe as like a moment of grace. I was like in this parking lot. There was nothing. It was like winter. It was November. I'm in Toronto. It's mushy, slushy weather. And out of nowhere, as I'm smoking and crying, it was like God reached down and turned up the volume of the birds. And suddenly the birds got really loud. And I couldn't see any birds, but I could hear birds. And I felt so much love in that moment. It was like trust. I could feel a lot of trust. So I was still grieving. I was still crying, but suddenly it was like, whoa, it's going to be okay. And shortly after, a friend who I didn't really even know, I had met her a couple times through a friend. She told me she's going to Argentina. She's staying with her family, and I can stay with her for free if I want. I just need to pay for the flight ticket. And it was like, okay. And I did it. Was
there any resistance or no? A little bit?
No, it was like, it was the only option, you know? It was like, the only option was that, because anything else was still being in this shitty reality that I was experiencing. And I needed something to just like break things open. And so I ended up going to Argentina, I think like a month later. And that is what then opened the doors to meditation, opened the doors to a belief in God. It opened a door to community and a new way of living, because I ended up living with her family, and they were Jehovah's Witness, and they didn't speak any English. But their community of the family was so much stronger than anything I experienced in my life. There was like 30 cousins, and they all hung out together all the time. And there was like this really strong, and I got adopted. Like, no one questioned the fact that I couldn't really even communicate. I was just right in there. They're worried about me if I stayed out late. Like, you know, I got in trouble once because I stayed out late at 28. I never had that happen to me. And not in trouble, but like, you know, I could tell that I had hurt them, even that they cared about me, and I hadn't really felt that level of care. So it was really a heart-opening experience, and it gave me a lot of confidence also to just go out to Argentina and be on my own and kind of dive into this experience. And from there, after that, I really decided that I wanted to continue to travel and continue to like, again, there was never a mind knowing. And that's what I keep reminding myself even now as I'm going through another difficult time and a rebirth process, is like, my mind's going crazy, but my mind never knew. And it never, you know, it was never part of any of this. It was never, ever. Life presented me the opportunities to jump, and I always jumped.
Yeah, the mind can't know the best parts. The best stuff, the mind can never. It can try to parrot it, talk about it the best it can, but once you're there, but the mind can never know. It's locked out of everything you're talking about. So how did you find, so you're in Argentina, did they teach you to meditate, or did you just find it because of the lush landscape, or what how do you find meditation as an atheist that came from, was it Seattle? Where were you?
I was in Toronto, in Canada.
Toronto.
I know everyone thinks I'm from the States.
Yeah, how do you find meditation?
So I knew about it from a scientific aspect, because I was struggling with mental health issues in Toronto, and my partner, you know, was reflecting that he would like me to go to therapy or do something to address a lot of my emotional outbursts and a lot of the struggling I was experiencing simply from being repressed and not necessarily in alignment to what my heart wanted, but what looked like a lot of mental health problems to the outside observer. And I couldn't get into it. And then when I was in Argentina, this is kind of funny and silly and cute, but I fell in love with an Argentinian man who was really into meditation. So I think, at least for me, and it's different for everyone, but it was like that heart connection, because the mind telling you, okay, there's something wrong with you, you need to meditate. I didn't want to meditate.
Right.
But then suddenly there was this person that I loved, and he's just meditating. And so I'm just enjoying meditation with him, allowed me to carry it with me after. We didn't end up staying together. We're still friends. We still stay in touch. But then after that, I understood the power of meditation. I came to it through a heart space. Nothing was wrong with me. It was just something he liked to do, and we did together.
See, that's important, because so many people, you're one of the first people that maybe we can break through this, because so many people find, they can't sit alone. It's very hard. They're thinking about dinner. They're thinking about the Citibank bill. They're thinking about, or they're just thinking about thinking while they're trying not to think, and they're all this effort, and they're not getting a reward from it. And you didn't do it from the mind. It was more the heart. And maybe that's the best way to go. You just fell in love with this human that loved to meditate, right? Is that what happened? Like, how do you, let's figure it out.
Yeah. Even now I experience, like, I do meditate, but I do find I enjoy meditation more when it's shared. And I don't know why, and at points I punished myself because I was like, well, the whole point is to be alone. And it's like, I don't know. I like to be alone with other people, I've lived in communities where we meditate together every single night, and those communities have been some of the best experiences I've ever had, because we're sharing as a community this cleansing, this silence together, and somehow that's bigger, and it creates a bigger energy field, which allows me to go deeper. So
I feel like the same on medicine. Would you? I'm sure you've taken medicine totally alone, and you've taken it ceremonially. Would you say that you're more with the medicine, you're alone, apophatic, like in silent darkness, or are you in the ceremony and sharing it with everyone, and it's so amazing, or both?
I would say it is I have sat with medicine on my own many times and gone through beautiful processes, and I find it more powerful with others.
Right. It's that integration with others and
the strength of the energy. Like, if we look at it like this, it's like, I believe truly that Earth itself is a conscious being, and I am one cell of that being, and every other human being is a cell of that being. And so when you think about it that way, it's like cells come together to create an organ, or to create a new life, a baby in a body. Cells come together to create things that are bigger than themselves on their own. So as much as I understand the desire for aloneness, and I think it's very important that we learn how to be alone, I also believe we are more powerful together, just like the cells of a body. I believe if we were batteries, like, look at us from an energetic standpoint. It's like, when I'm meditating, I create a mandala. But if I'm meditating with 100 other people, think about the mandala we're creating.
Much bigger.
If I'm in ceremony healing, think about how much deeper I can go, as 30 other people are healing also. We're all healing different things. We all are, in our own personal process. But the energy that's being created, the shape of the circle. I mean, if you've ever been in a moon dance or a dual dance where, the dancers are creating shapes together, and you can't see them from the human field. Like, I can't look at the dancers and know what shapes are being made, but the shapes aren't for us. The shapes are for spirit. And together we're creating this larger energy. We're creating these really sacred shapes that are a prayer for something bigger than us, which is also us.
Yes. Everything I've ever read and felt, but early on, when I was so stuck on staying in the cave and being quiet, the best teachers would always say, you go to the desert. The wise go to the desert, to that quiet, wherever it could be your closet, it could be the quiet of your room, or a river, or that waterfall behind you. But then you must return to the city, and you must come back to the people. If you don't, it's not, it's not done yet. You have to come back. There's always the return back, the journey.
Yeah, you get, and I from my own experience, and again, my own experience, yeah, so everyone's different, but it has been 6 years since that first kind of kickoff of this journey. And I am noticing that it's easy to get lost if we hold on to this desire to be alone in the cave.
Yes.
Because only through interaction with others am I really seeing the depth of the work that I have done. And what I'm really recognizing also is that in sharing my light, like we talk about sharing the light, then I'm receiving the light because the mirror of the other is allowing me to see my light. Like having this conversation with you is allowing me to even know what wisdom I carry.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I had this. I'm like, oh my God, yeah, the day starts with creation and ends with destruction. I didn't know that until I had the conversation with you. And I'm like, oh shit, it does.
Right.
So it's like I've done so much work going deep, but I will never harvest the fruits of that labor if I continue to be alone and isolating myself. It's like I must meet the mirror in order to harvest the fruits of that and be able to share those fruits with others.
It's perfect. And on another podcast I just mentioned, same thing that Rumi wrote about. If you're afraid of that friction with the other, if you're afraid to get rubbed, how is your mirror going to get polished? You're this beautiful mirror. You need to get polished, and that's this divine dance where you rub to me. We rub together, and we come out with whatever comes out now, and we capture it on the podcast, and we share with others, and they rub, and everyone's rubbing and making this beautiful, crystal, perfect mirror.
Yeah. And it was necessary for me to go through my process of aloneness. I was in a relationship for 10 years, from 18 to 28. So I did not have a sense of who I was as an individual, and I did not have my deep connection with source. So I had to go through that fire of aloneness, and it was a lot of really lonely, difficult times, traveling and not really quite sure why I kept leaving places that I liked, but knowing that I had to. And it's like you feel that soul urge, but it doesn't make sense to your mind. So you're almost angry and grieving and so many times like questioning, like, why am I running from everything and putting these stories on like I'm broken and I keep running. Whereas like now I recognize that like I was developing a deep trust in life and in myself and my independence and my connection to source. And now I'm finally able to hold that center and share it with others.
So can I ask, for people that are struggling with, they're ready to give up during those moments where they're like, why am I, I'm in Costa Rica or I'm in LA or wherever they are, and they're ready to give up, and they're like, I'm doing everything, I'm meditating, I'm doing it. And you're saying only later, maybe it makes sense, but just hold on. What would you say to those people that are ready to give up? They're going through that dark night of the soul. Wherever
you can't give up. I mean, you can kill yourself, and there was plenty of times where I was like,
resets and you come right back.
Right, like there was times where I'm like, like not even Costa Rica, like being in Nicaragua, like in this kind of like empty, like kind of stone house that someone gave me a key to, which was really nice. But I'm kind of alone, and I'm like, why am I here? This is so weird. Or it's like it's. And the environments didn't matter either, to be honest, James. It was like an internal experience. Even if I'd been with a ton of other people in a big community, I would have been going through the same isolating experience and the same deep pain and depression that was coming up. And
so just stay with it, sit with it.
It's like you don't have you can't stop your soul. It's like event horizon, it's like once it starts happening, like the seed opening and that shoot going to, nothing can stop that thing trying to get to the top of the dirt. The only thing that cannot stop it is like some form of death. So if you choose, that you're going to end it in that moment. But I mean, don't, please, just hold out.
No, my teacher told me when it hit, like, it was dark, and he said, sorry, it's too late. Like, you're on the ride now, and so sorry, but there's no turning back. And part of that made me feel like the way you just showed it. You go, what? But at the same time, you feel comfort that he's saying, this is it. Just hold to hold on or don't hold on, unbuckle the belt, whatever you have to do. This is it. This is it.
You're in. You can't. I remember being in a Vipassana and we write letters to the guy that's leading it to just like help us process or whatever. And I'm writing like such an angry letter. I'm like, I hate this. I hate that I ever did this. I want to drink wine and watch Netflix. It's like drinking wine and watching Netflix is a nice relief, but it's not. I can't do it anymore. Like I can do it maybe a couple times as like a emergency, like break glass in case of emergency, to go back to like this one version of existence that felt so much more simple and comforting, even though I was miserable in it. It's like, I can't get off the ride and I hate that I did this, and I was really angry. And, deep down, I don't hate anything about it. Like everything about this process has been so worth it. Every moment of being every moment of being deeply in pain has been so worth it. And also lately I realized, this was something I learned through the ice bath, but I think it's relevant here. It's like, I was in the ice bath and it's really painful. You're in super cold water and it hurts. And I was in a lot of pain. And suddenly this voice came to me and it was like, okay, so you're in pain and you can either receive pain or you can receive what pain gives you, which is strength. So you choose. Do you want to receive suffering from pain or do you want to receive strength from pain?
It is.
And the minute I was like, well, I want to receive strength, obviously, in this moment, the water was less cold. I swear to you, it suddenly felt like the water was filling every cell with energy, with magic, it was like I suddenly could have sat in there for 10 minutes, let alone the 3 minutes I was trying to hold to, And it's like, this idea too, it's like in this process, pain and conflict are inevitable. It's just going to happen. So we choose what we receive from those moments. We choose, it's like if I go through deep moments of pain, how do I show myself care afterwards? I receive strength. And then how do I give myself love afterwards? Like right now I'm going through pain. This month has been difficult for me. A lot of things are losing their context. And I know it's a rebirth. I've been through it before. I'm familiar with it. It still sucks. Like I'm still crying. And today I screamed just because I was like, why? But I have friends around and I have people who are really here for me in this process. They're sent from spirit. I don't know how else to explain it. They don't want anything from me. They literally just want to come by and cook for me, or they really just want to make sure I'm okay, or they're sending me songs, or they're calling me from India. I haven't seen them in like 8 months and suddenly I'm getting a phone call from India and he's taking me through a guided meditation. It's like the beings are here. We're here to support each other in this process. So in the pain, be willing to receive the strength, be willing to receive the support and the love that is also available to you at all times.
Look what you're doing in the pain with me right now. Like, this is amazing. You're spilling out all this wisdom and beauty, and it's amazing. So I know you wanted to talk about a little bit about borders. Did you want to still do that? That's the whole problem right now.
This is it's so funny that we talk about borders, because the other day I was on this big trip where I'm like, borders are the only reason war is happening. Like the idea that we own the earth, Gaia is a conscious being. So the idea that we own parts of a conscious being, it's against her rights as a conscious being.
Absurd.
It's like horrifying. And I'm not the only one to believe this. I have a lot of sisters in my circle right now that we are really believing this is like, it's the feminine rising. It's like, you cannot own me.
Yeah.
As the feminine, you cannot own me. And you're fighting over parts of me that you never owned. And so as much as I'm like, dissolve the borders, at the top of this conversation, you mentioned borders. And I was like, whoa, but the first thing I do every morning is I establish borders with myself.
Oh.
So therein is like duality, right? Like it's like nothing is bad or good. It's like, how do we apply it? How do we perceive and receive it? Like if we perceive and receive borders as an excuse to kill one another and differentiate each other and decide that one side is bad and one side is good, then borders are bad. But if we use borders to say, hey, there's a lot of pain happening in the world and I know I am all of it, but right now I need to establish the border of being in my own body, then borders are amazing. They're saving us.
Right.
So it's not even about the 3D reality. The external world's not like, that's all just different constructs of the mind. It's like, how are we receiving and perceiving all of these constructs of the mind? Therein lies the truth.
That's it.
How are we perceiving reality, receiving everything around us? It's like borders are amazing. I need borders.
Yeah.
As a human entity, I need borders so I'm not melting into everyone else. And borders can be the reason that we fight. And it's the separation that causes us to push away others, run from others, attack and hurt others. So, you know, I couldn't say that borders are good or bad. I could only say, like, how are you operating with the idea of borders?
Yeah, I love that. But you know, from if we could do medicine for a little bit, what did you take? If you want to talk about it, I think we talked about DMT the first time I met you, and that
Yeah.
showed you your boundlessness. I would imagine, like your borderlessness, Lala.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it shows me again, it's like borders are necessary, right? Like I keep seeing this vision. I'll go into the Jarema experience in a moment, but it's like I'm seeing it's not about a lack of borders, but it's about redefining the borders and what they mean. Like I know that I have to treat my hands differently than I treat my eyes, and I have to treat my mouth differently than I treat my feet. And so with borders, like when we look at the world, maybe it's less about individual countries that are and borders that are established in blood, and more about borders that are established around resources, borders that are established around community, borders that are established around sustainability. Because if we broke countries up, for example, into small self-sustainable communities, so imagine remove all countries and then put a new grid work over where it's all these little bubbles of all these self-sustaining communities, and each one has access to different resources. So borders are still important for all those communities to be able to be sustainable within the resources that they have access to, and also to trade with other communities that they have. Those borders are necessary.
Talk to each other. Yeah.
But the borders are necessary for us to understand what each area would need and require. And so that takes me into the Jarema experience, which for me, when I blasted off into whatever dimension DMT takes you to, what I saw was that all of humanity was this plant. You know, again, it goes back to Gaia. It was like this plant. And different things were happening in different parts of the plant because different parts of the plant were doing different things. Like the flower was blossoming and the leaf was photosynthesizing and the roots were sucking up water and the stem was being structured. And so there was borders within the plant in the sense that there was different parts of the plant doing different things that required different action and response. But it was still one organism. And so within that experience, you know, someone was purging to the left of me, someone's vomiting, and it's like, oh, the plant is releasing seeds over there. Whereas like somewhere else, someone's laughing, and it's like, oh my God, that part of the plant is flowering. And none of it's personal. It all has to happen. I mean, when we look at Gaia again as a conscious being, it's like right now, there's a lot of pressure of repressed emotion. There's a lot of repression happening on Earth. We can look to Western society to see that happening. We can look to our own experiences to see where that's happening.
Would you say that's because we're those people, or whichever way you want to say it, let's say those people are forgetting their true nature and they're falling into separation and they're forgetting who they are. That's the only reason all this bad seems to happen, right?
Well, it's almost like what the Jarema was showing me was like this needs to happen and it's inevitable, and we need to simply allow the plant to do what the plant needs to do. It's like great tension is required to release the seed. Great tension is required to open the bloom of the flower. So and perhaps it's less about perceiving anything that's happening right now as good or bad, and more about understanding that it is all necessary, and then creating the borders that we need personally to navigate what must happen.
Right.
And I think it's really, or I feel deeply that it's really about letting go of this idea that anything is good or bad. It's simply the process. And we have our individual processes, and we've learned to trust, you know, it's like, as I'm going through this darkness right now, it's like, I trust that there's light on the other side. And then I can apply that on a macro level to the earth, as confronting as it is to say, is like, this is necessary, and I trust that there is love in it. Like I look to my friends in Israel who are going through hell, and I love them. Like these are people that I have deep connections with, ex-partners, best friends, people that have been with me through so much of my journey, and whom I feel such a deep heart connect. I can't turn away, you know?
Yeah.
But the other day, I saw a bunch of them were getting together and they're singing together. They're making circles together. They're praying together. They're bringing love to this. And so as much as it's a horrible hellscape, what happened is stuff that I couldn't even imagine experiencing as a human being. And they're going through it. and they're meeting it with love. They're meeting it in the circle. So it's like coming back to this, like
Trust.
maybe it needs to happen to allow for this light to blossom. Maybe it needs to happen for this love to blossom, because it sounds like a lot of different stories are coming up. But I don't follow politics at all. I find it very stressful. That's Mortar. I used to be very politically involved in Canada, and it just created so much angst and anger in me that I lately, in the last 6 years, have really moved away. I may cycle back. I feel like it's important that we create change where we can. And
Right.
witnessing my friends in Israel who are navigating this really intense topic and coming back to the idea that, like, yeah, and no one deserves to suffer, and no one deserves to be killed, and no one deserves to be raped or abducted. No one deserves any of this. And coming back to love and prayer for peace. It's like,
What I keep getting from you is don't forget, don't have amnesia, remember, trust, love, remember the big picture that it's all inclusive, and if it's all God, it's all going to be fine. And
it's
that's
tough to
easier
say,
said
right?
than
But
done. Yeah, it's really easy
it's so
say,
scary to say it
yeah.
out loud. I hate it. Like, I'm like, ah,
Yeah,
there's good
and you
and
have to
bad, and there's
watch
people.
when you say that. Yeah, you have to be very delicate if you're talking to someone that can't get water or can't get food, or you're like, it's all part of the, it's all
Oh my
fine.
God, spiritual
Yeah, you have to
bypassing. It's the
watch your
worst thing.
mouth.
I got mugged when I was in Nicaragua, and it was a really intense experience. And yeah, I knew I manifested it, and it was part of my process. And da, 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 da. But some guy in the group was like, "Remember that you made this happen." And I was like, "You
No,
motherfucker! Like, don't you dare! You didn't get attacked!" Like, and it was so I was so angry. I'm like, "This man smashed my head off the ground. I had a
yeah,
black eye. Like, it was a
you
really
wanted,
scary
yeah,
experience."
you
And I
asked
knew it
for it.
had to happen. I get it. I had both. It's like we have to operate in many different perspectives, really.
Yeah,
And it comes back to this plant analogy. It's like, okay, the plant has to do all the things that the plant has to do, but that doesn't mean that we don't care, like that we don't care, or we don't have, it's the plant doesn't work here.
yeah, yeah.
Right. So
No,
it's like,
I get from what you're saying. When we're talking about these huge things like what's happening in the world right now, it's okay to not to say. I mean, you're doing a great job putting it in words. You're doing a great job, but also, and I know you know this, it's okay to not know, and like you keep saying, trust, and to the mind. We can't actually put in words to explain how a terrorist might take someone's eyes out or take a little kid's ears off, or it's horrible, but at the same time we don't have to put it in words, and it's just, it might be the time to just, it's so horrible, let's just be quiet and remember, and say you're sorry, and we don't have to, it won't help the little child to say words, right? Except give them a hug, like I think is what you're saying.
what I really feel, listening to you and listening to me, I went off on that tangent, is like,
It's great.
don't look away, don't look
Yeah.
away,
Yeah, don't look
and
away.
come back to love.
Yes, yes. And this doesn't fit, but it'll fit in its own way. I saw a priest that when I was a little atheist as a teenager, he was the head of the youth group, and he was like the coolest priest, and we liked him because he would do like rock symbols and be funny and say things that you shouldn't say, but he was really cool. So I looked him up later when I had this awakening, and I got together with him, and he showed me his parish and took me upstairs, and we talked non-duality and everything you're saying, and all the mystics and the great truth. And I said, why don't you tell that from the pulpit? And he said, I can't. Only if they come in the back, they come in my door, if they pull on my shirt and they say something deeper, then he can. But from that altar, he has to talk a certain way. And then he showed me, and I'm sorry, it's taken a while, but he showed me step by step. He took me on the altar when no one was there. And I felt like there was no one out there. And it felt like being on a mountaintop. I swear, from looking this way, I never got to look from the altar of a church that I used to hate, with the big cross behind me, that way towards an empty church. And I felt like I was on a mountaintop. It was very beautiful. But anyway, he showed me his living quarters, and he went up, up, up. And at the very top, he showed me a bathroom, and he had one word, and he was so proud, not proud, he was so determined to show me this one word under his mirror. And you said it 20 times today already. And it was one word, and it just said trust. And that night, I took MDMA. That night, after driving home 2 hours from him, went home, took MDMA in silent darkness. And you know how these medicines work. That first beginning where the whole world starts to crumble away. And as it was crumbling away, and there were no more people, for 1 second, I was able to see Father Joe. And we were going up, 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 up. And he showed me that one word, smiling, trust. And then, boom, I popped into that empty, beautiful love that is beyond everything. And we're not going to talk about that. But trust was and it's such a big part of everything you're saying today. So.
Well, and it's like, hearing that, it's like, I really reflect on, also, we all have different messages, it's like my perspective is a fractal of the perspectives of this entire planet, which is the perspective of the one. Like the one split itself into all of us so it could experience itself from every perspective. So I myself am not involved in politics right now. I myself am really speaking of trust and love and coming back to love and coming back to oneness and understanding that it's all necessary. But that's my message. That's not everyone's message. It's simply a piece. It's saying, hey, I have this little tiny puzzle piece. It's about trust. Take it. Whereas like I have friends who their puzzle piece is about the political side. It's about anti-Semitism. I have other friends who their side is about liberation of the oppressed, and why a terrorist group even starts, So it's like, there's 3 different perspectives. One is like, I don't want to talk about the politics. Everyone's love. And then someone else is like, where do you think terrorism comes from? There's oppression. And then another side's like, yeah, but this is anti-Semitism and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, okay, so all of those are true.
One hand. Yeah.
Here we go. You, me, him, her, everyone. Yeah. God,
Yeah.
So it's not about believing. Even like I started yelling at one point. I think I said the F word. I said, motherfucker. I'm like, whoa, I was in a rage. Really, it's like I'm just one little piece, and everyone has their little piece, and it circles back to like coming back to our source before we're interacting with others. It's like, what's our little piece, and know that our little piece is as important as everyone else's little piece to understand something that's really not understandable.
Yes,
it's very complex.
I love that. I love what you just said. Yeah, it's so big. It's big beyond big beyond big. It's so large and so ungraspable, but at the same time we try, and it's so beautiful that little Lala, little James, and little, we put this little podcast and we put it out to the little people, and we all, like you said, some people have a shovel and they're actually digging bodies out, and we're talking about trust, and between all of that, we're all the one trying to love itself.
Right? Like we've been trying to.
Yeah, that.
Somewhere therein is the truth, like somewhere therein. I mean, we look at, it's like somewhere in the middle of all that chaos of different perspectives that are all true. Like somewhere in there is the letting go, is the surrender. And that's the truth.
That's the truth.
It's like, coming back to love, it's like, okay, this shit happened. Okay, this was awful. This was horrible. It was ugly. Don't look away. Don't pretend it didn't happen. Don't talk around it. It was disgusting to witness. And just like many of us have experienced our own personal traumas that we've gone through that were not okay.
Yeah.
And somewhere in letting go of the victim and the oppressor and letting go of the wrong and the right, all of that is just like, coming back to love. It's like, okay.
So your best technique for total surrender, which we know is the real deal answer, would be, I know you meditate, I know you're taking medicine, I know you love music. What else? Anything else you want to, music and loving people and trusting. What else do you want to give? You gave so much.
I have a good answer.
We can end. We're done.
the answer would be that there is no way. There is no
Yeah.
one way. It's like to each one, there's been times
Yeah.
where silence is the only thing that's keeping me sane. And lately, I can't be in silence. It's
Right.
like I had an insight today where it was like, right now, my shadow is silence and hiding, and my light is expressing and sharing. But that wasn't always the truth. Before, my expression was my shadow, and my silence was my light. So it's like I could say in the end, don't listen to anything I'm saying, and just tap into yourself and figure out what you need to feel connected to that surrender. It's like, don't look to anyone else. Like, you are your master.
Yes. And hold on, but a little loosely, or totally let go. And when the pain comes, because you've been through the tsunami of all this, just don't give up and trust. I think trust is such a simple word, and we bypass it, but it's a powerful. Would you have not to put you on the spot, you don't have to answer, but would you have any difference between faith and trust? Just see if anything comes out. No pressure. Same thing.
There's a difference between faith and trust.
Almost the same, right?
They feel it because it's like it doesn't, for me. I'm like, the word doesn't matter because it's a feeling. It's like we just made up words to try to capture feeling. It's like, for some reason my advice is like, light a candle. I have a candle right now. I've been having a candle burning like for the last, since everything started going haywire, for you guys in Guatemala, for the Mayans fighting this beautiful fight for the indigenous people, for all my friends out there supporting them and also going through that beside them, sending money, knowing that they can't protest, and how frustrating that must be to like
the
be in it.
Are empty. Everything's empty. It's crazy.
Yeah. And with all my friends in Israel, like a friend who had to be in a bunker because her kibbutz was burning, like all this stuff. So I've just been lighting a candle. And I think that would go back again to what we talked about at the very start of this, which is like, there is no dogma, there is no right way, there is no wrong way, but there are the elements.
Yeah.
The elements are magical.
They're, back to water and warmth and radiation and love and light.
I cry a lot. Keeping the candles lit. I'm outside a lot.
Yeah.
And these are like, I guess the real advice I could give anyone, besides don't listen to me and just listen to yourself, would also be support yourself with the elements, because if we are all cells in Gaia, then we derive strength from her elements. Yes.
Because it's all one. You could say connected or one, it's the same thing. And don't forget, and if someone's out there listening, I'm sure they hear your journey, and they hear that they could either take medicine or they can hold on, or everything's going to be fine in the end. Just trust, because it's
all. I mean, like I came from it. I've tried to kill myself. I've gone through a lot of trauma and shadow in like my life experience, like a lot of self-harm, a lot of drug abuse, a lot of cocaine and sleeping pills, and a lot of crazy messed up stuff. And I'm so glad that I was able to alchemize those experiences into depth.
And can we say, I love that, can we say something that we haven't really said here, and most people don't say it, but maybe we can make history tonight. Can we say that awakening, I saw you in the Third Eye restaurant. I saw you right next to me. Awakening isn't, you can experience this beautiful thing. It'll happen. But then you might forget again. And it's not always perfect. And I think that's what you're trying to say. And I'm trying to, go ahead, you go. It's right. Yeah. It's not, it's like a myth to think that, I get it, Muji's great, and Adashanti, and this teacher and that, but they're showing something that, like on Facebook, you can show your life being perfect, but once in a while, like my cat just died. It was sad, even though I wrote 3 books on there is no death. Of course,
Yeah.
there is no death of what you really are, but when you love this little furry baby, and we know do not love the form, but yet we do, and it's a brutal teaching to remind you, but you, it's everything's not going to be perfect, and you have to remember that we experience this Alzheimer's disease or amnesia, and we forget our true self, and then we have to trust and hold on, you know.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I didn't even realize it. Yes, it's sort of like this idea that the energy is always moving, and we
Yeah, it's
will come
not,
in and
you
out
don't
of
wake up
shadow.
and just stay there. Maybe some do, but I haven't met one yet. I
Well,
haven't
and
met
I mean
one.
that for me, I've received the messages like what you're asking for. I was in a Vipassana and I was like grumbling in my mind, like I don't like this, and I don't want this, and I want this, and finally this voice was like, "Well, do you want to die?" And I was like, "What?" And it was like, "Well, what you're asking for is death.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
asking for the cease, like of all duality. You're asking for the
that's
cease
great.
of shadow and light. So, do you want to die?" And I was like, "Interesting question. No, I don't want to die." And then that was kind of like this like moment of like letting go of this sort of concept that I was going to reach some sort of spiritual plateau where I could just be up there. And
Right,
it's like, I mean, I believe that's death. Like that's the final ascension. It's what we're
right. We
working
keep
towards.
climbing. Yeah,
Osho said all life is preparation for
yeah.
death.
Yes,
Like,
everybody says that. I think Da
oh, a bunch
Vinci
of people are
said
saying,
all the
okay,
while I thought I was learning how to live, I was learning how to die. It's always that. I love that.
yeah,
But I know that when you said that, I thought of on the medicine. I've had moments where I could have stayed right where I was, which was dead, and it gave a choice like, do you want to go back? And I said, yeah, I want to go back and talk to Lala and have a coffee. I gotta, but I don't want to forget this too. And that was the big. My teacher would always say these two words each time, just two. Um, well, two words and one other word, so three words. Don't forget, don't forget, like that beautiful spaciousness that you experience. Don't forget it, and bring it back and spread it. And then the other one was stay, like stay. But then I wanted that coffee, and the touch of your bare foot on the floor, the lake and the water and the sun and the warmth, and being able to bring it back. It's like, and then I'm going to shut up and let you have the last word. It's like these two monks are going through the desert, and or just two people, me and you, going through the desert, and we're about to die. We have nothing left, like Israel, Palestine, Guatemala, nothing left, and we're about to give up. And then we hear running water, and you see these avocado trees coming over the top of a wall, and it's amazing. And we hear the birds that you heard when you were in despair. You heard these birds that brought you back. They weren't even there. You just heard these birds. And so over the wall is everything. But one of us scales the wall and sits and eats the fruit and replenishes. The other one of us goes back out to the desert to guide everyone back to the wall that everyone's blind and they can't find. It's all misty and they can't find that wall. So you have to go and experience this, but you also have to go back and do what you're doing and give to everybody and tell them to trust and love and sit under the waterfall and splash water on your face. Have a good morning and put on beautiful music instead of something crazy, and don't grab your phone right away, and you know remember everything. Seek the kingdom.
that makes it, what brings that to me there is like, this is a shared responsibility. Like I really sometimes I see, and I've experienced this myself, where it's like, I'm a light worker and I'm here to awaken and guide people. It's like, no one's a light worker or everyone's a light worker. Let's let go of that, because none of us are special. No, you weren't born special. It's like, it's all of our responsibility as we awaken to take care of ourselves and to bring others to that if we can, but
Yes.
find the balance. Like Don't throw yourself into deep suffering trying to save the world. Take care of yourself. Then go out into the desert again and see if you can guide people.
Yes.
Then maybe come back to the oasis, tag someone else, be like, yo, I have a tooth infection. I can't be doing this right now. Can someone else go out there? Like,
And
really
that's what you mean by boundaries. We need to put up those borders a little bit so that we can be able to come back and show them everything and learn from them and give and receive and right.
Yeah, and find like, I mean, be grateful for these moments of like, you know, there's wars happening right now and I'm able to eat apples in a waterfall. Like, whoa, I can let go of that. Like, I should be out there helping. And it's like, okay, but right now the best thing I can do is to be grateful, you know, to send love to my friends, to make sure they're okay, to call them, to tell them, hey, if you need anything from me, I'm here. And also to be in deep gratitude for what I'm experiencing right now. Or for you in Guatemala, it's like the ATMs are out of money, but you still have a beautiful home.
Yeah.
You still have access to the outside world. You still have, I am assuming, your basic needs, you know? And it's like
air. There's air.
There's air.
There's air. Something
I
about
think
air.
we can go so crazy on the spiritual journey also.
Yeah.
Just trying to help everybody else on the spiritual journey.
I agree.
And forgetting that like part of that journey is just simply to appreciate being here.
Yeah. So it's a dual part of you. You just said perfectly what I tried to say with that story. So the two are really one. The one goes into the desert, finds the wall, and part of them goes over and replenishes, but the other part goes and helps. But you can't just be that, and you just can't be that. There it is.
Yeah, it's like we all have different tasks, and if you're in it's like really receiving where you are right now and being okay with where you are right now. And it's like if that's in a place of activism where you're needing to speak out against evil, then accept that that's what's up. And if it's a place of rest and rejuvenation, don't punish yourself for that. Be in that, because we are all needed in different ways, and we trust that you, like I said before with the ascension, this event horizon, your soul waking up, like you can't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
Trust it.
So this is big what you're saying. When you feel, I'm trying to put a drill into what you're saying right there. At that moment when you start to feel, all right, I'm helping others or I'm doing this, and you start to feel an agitation, you would say, hold on, you're feeling agitated, you're either helping or you're not, or you're worried, or there's a tsunami of doubt. Slow down and take a breath and go back to those elements, the element, go back to water, dirt, and, feel the earth, and go back to less concepts. And at that moment, you'll know what to do. Like, don't, right? I'm just trying to get into that agitation where
it's like the idea that you're not in service creates a reality where you're not in service.
Yes.
The idea that we're all in service creates a reality where we're all in service. And that's where trust comes in. That's where the quantum understanding science comes in. Yes. The way that we're vibrating, the realities that we create with our mind. And so, I mean, if given the option of choosing that, to believe that everything is not in service and it's just chaotic and evil. I mean, if I can choose a perspective, which is basically the only thing I can choose in this existence.
Right, there's one.
I'm going to choose to believe it's all in service, including me. And if that looks, whatever that looks like is what it is.
So don't beat yourself up. Just we're back to the most elemental things, but it's always that. Just breathe, relax, throw some water on your face, or listen to beautiful music, or go step outside and feel the dirt under your feet, and take it easy. Slow down. It's okay. And trust. This is what I'm getting from everything. Trying to narrow it down to just trust in your heart. It's going to be okay.
It's back to that program. Like, you're programming your reality. And I mean, when it comes to the elements for myself, like, this is the simplest we can go, And it goes to my friends in Israel who are facing unimaginable horrors, who are losing family members and are still sitting in a circle and they're singing. Yeah. They're coming back to the simple things that they know work.
During the lockdown, people were singing across balconies, remember? Like they were locked in and they would just sing to each other. And that's how we met. You were making this beautiful music, and I gave you 50 versions of Row Row for your boat to sing.
Yeah.
Remember that? Remember that?
Yeah.
Because that's the whole thing, row your boat. I mean, merrily, life is just a dream. It's okay. Do it merrily, do it with trust, you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm going to read this one tiny thing before you go. Milarepa, rest in a natural way like a small child. Rest like an ocean without waves. Rest within clarity like a candle flame. Rest without self-concern like a human corpse. Rest unmoving like a mountain. I like that.
All the
Just
elements.
rest. Just relax.
Each
Go
one.
from
No.
this to this. It's so simple.
Yeah, and we all have different cycles, you know. I just want to close with this one saying is that we come back to these elemental teachings, which is like, again, we all have a different message, we all have a different perspective, and mine is an elemental teaching, and I've known that it's a tantric teaching. It's in alignment deeply to the earth and to the simplicity of the earth. Like, if everything seems really big, what's happening in the dirt? Look at the ants, you know, like bring yourself back here. And this elemental teaching really shows us that we don't have control of the external, but we do have control over how we perceive it. And if we perceive it from the perspective of Mother Gaia, from these, by using her elements, her very simple magic totems, the candle flame, resting like the flame, resting like the ocean, resting like the corpse, resting like the mountain. From that perspective, we can at least navigate in the most, for me, graceful way possible.
Yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Lala. And we'll do another one if Guatemala doesn't fall apart next year.
Praying for you guys so much over there, and for all the activists who are having to go through. I was contemplating it the other day, where I was like, you know, they've had to cut off water to the hospitals as part of their blockades. But then it's like, okay, but how much light? Oh my God, I was almost in tears. I was like, but how do they choose? It's like, it's unfair what's happening to them, but it's also unfair what's happening with the hospitals, and it's unfair. And I was like, oh my God. And it's like, okay, just back to the candle.
Yes. All is well, all is well, all is well. Love you. Thank you for coming here, and we'll see you, I want to say January, February 2024.
I feel it.
A new world, a new peace, something. We'll see you no matter what.
Yeah, I love you so much, James. I know I'll see you again wherever it may be on this frequency. And keep doing this. This is really beautiful. In this conversation, I actually learned a lot about myself. Because so much of what I was saying was a surprise to me. So also I hope no one's feeling what?
I bought a ukulele so I could play with you. So next time, you'll have. I know you have one within probably. Can you reach and grab one or no?
Well, 1 second. Well, good closing song. I have a song I just learned.
All right, that would be a great ending.
Oh my God! So after all of that. Pretty heavy topics and some pretty intense stuff, really, and kind of coming back to simplicity. What?
About this?
He was behind you. How did he get over here? You brought him over.
I brought him over when you grabbed your ukulele. I grabbed my instrument.
I saw him back there behind you. I noticed him when we were talking.
It's nothing to be afraid of.
But still sad. It's actually interesting because I've been processing that my cat passed away while I was traveling, and literally yesterday I messaged the guy that had adopted her when I left, who loved her so much, and I was like, was she happy? And he sent me a bunch of pictures of her, and she was very happy. She looks super happy.
Yes.
So, this is a song that I actually like to open the day with, and so I wanted to share it because it does help me to come back to that trust in the face of a lot of injustice and a lot of unfairness, which I perceive and feel, and I find myself angry at often. I know you're always with me. I trust in you completely. I feel your love every know you're always with me. I trust in you completely. I feel your love everywhere. Om Namo Narayani, Narayani Nama. Om Namo Narayani, Narayani Nama. Om Guru Jaya Guru, Om Guru Shiva Guru, Om Guru Shakti Guru Jaya, Jaya. Om Guru Jaya Guru, Om Guru Shiva Guru, Om Guru Shakti Guru Jaya, Jaya. Om Shiva Shakti, Om Shiva, Om Shakti, Om Shiva, Om Shakti, Om Shiva, Om Shakti. I know you're always with me. I trust in you completely. I feel your love everywhere. I know you're always with me. I trust in you completely. I feel your love everywhere. Om Namo Narayani, Narayani Nama. Om Namo Narayani, Narayani Nama.
Ah, I was hoping it wouldn't end.
Isn't it so nice? You can repeat it forever, but I just thought I would do like
I love that. Shiva, Shakti.
Yeah, and I mean, it goes back also to a quick note. It's like I haven't studied I haven't studied Sanskrit. I haven't studied a lot of these spiritual belief systems, but that song makes me feel really good in my heart, and so I know it is a good song. You know what I mean? Like I know
Just
it's connected to something.
Yeah, it's written already in your heart.
Yeah.
Can you do? Because I don't let you leave without row your boat.
Can I do? Let me see if I can do it. I mean, I'm not
an
a master.
extended version, a Lala-ized version.
Okay.
It's for everyone.
Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Oh, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Yeah, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream.
Perfection.
That was somehow more magical than the Om Guru Trust Within song.
Oh,
I don't know.
Both great. What an ending. What a beginning. What an endless journey. Thank you, Lala. See you tomorrow or in a few months.
Stay tuned. Stay in connection. Let me know what's happening also with everything that's happening in Guatemala.
Yes, we will celebrate. And thank you for your message of trust for everyone.
Yeah, I almost, when you said we will celebrate, I'm like, let's just celebrate now. Like whatever ways we can, you know?
Remember the watch? You remember. You love that watch.
That's such a cool watch.
I give it to you next time I see you. I give it to you.
Oh
But
my
you have
God,
to sing me Row Your Boat. You have to sing it again.
James, I'll sing you anything. I love singing. Like literally people in the airport ask me to sing a song, I immediately stop. I'm like, yes.
It's hard. It doesn't take a lot of twisting your arm to sing. No, thank you, Lala. You were so beautiful, so wonderful. See you soon. Be good.
Ciao, ciao, brother.
Bye-bye.